Brave. We'll discuss that. Okay? You can repeat some prayers after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskrityam
Narayanam Namaskrityam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswati Vyasam
Tato Jaya Mudhiraye
Tato Jaya Mudiraye
Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu
Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Bhagavati Ruttama Shloke
Bhagavate Ruttama Shloke
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki
Krishnaya Vasudevaya
Krishnaya Vasudevaya
Devaki Nandanaya Cha
Devaki Nandanaya Cha
Nanda Gopa Kumaraya
Nandagopa Kumaraya
Govindaya Namo Namaha
Govindaya Namo Namaha
Namo Pankaja Nabhaya
Namo Pankaja Nabhaya
Namo Pankaja Maline
Namo Pankaja Maline
Namo Pankaja Netraya
Namo Pankaja Netraya
Namaste Pankajangre
Namaste Pankajangre
Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dintarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Mishwaram Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Yonta pravisya mama vachamimam prasuptam sanjivayata kila shakti dhara swadhamna Anyam shahasta charana shravana tvagadin prananamo bhagavate purushaya tubhyam Katanchana smrite yasmin duskaram sukaram bhavet Vismrite viparitam sya Sri Chaitanya namamitam Hare Krishna. So developing fearlessness is a topic, and I would like to thank Abhiram Gopal Prabhu for inviting me and giving me an opportunity. Why don't you come forward? Is it possible? You can sit on the first row, and because I have to shout otherwise. So fear. Anybody here has experienced fear? What do we generally fear? What are the fears? Different fears we have. Fear of darkness. Wait. Fear of losing something. Fear of losing someone, losing something, darkness, fear of the unknown. Anything else? Any other fears?
COVID, especially now it's COVID.
COVID. Yeah. Your mask is indicating fear. Fear of COVID. Actually, before coming to US, I was in Madrid, and I lost my bag, which has passport. The terminal 1 to terminal 3 I was going, and I got off the bus without my main bag, and I was nearing the counter, and then I realized my backpack is missing. And that's when one girl, Shamali, she had come for a retreat. I know her parents before she was born. So she was in the same bus. She was also going to the next terminal, and she saw that bag and she assumed that it could be mine, and she called up one of my friends who was with me. What a coincidence. I narrowly survived. Even today, after it's been 2 weeks now, in the night sometimes I get so we all have fear, right? So that time I remember that fear I had for a few minutes was, imagine you lose your passport in a foreign country. Fear of unknown, fear of losing someone you love, they were all natural fears. Now we are going to discuss a little deep topic here about what does scriptures say about fear and how we can become fearless. Because in this world, fear is very natural. Unfortunately, it is natural, but it becomes debilitating, which means it starts causing us problems. Some healthy fear is okay, but unfortunately our fears become unhealthy. Like during COVID it happened, people panicking, and then we attract negative energies because of our fears. So that subtle difference is very important to know. So we'll go to Mahabharata first. Mahabharata explains about fear. Ahara nidra bhayametunam cha samanam pashubhir naranam धर्मो हि तेषाम् अधिको विशेषो धर्मेण हीना pashubhir samanam. Mahabharata says that there are 4 things common to human beings and animals. And these 4 things are common. Animals also do this, humans also do this. Ahara means ahara nidra, bhaya, fear. Means basically fear means defending. Maithunam, sex life. Eating, sleeping, sex life, and defending. These 4 are common to human beings and animals. Ahara nidra bhayamaithunam cha samanyam pashubhir naranam. Pashu and nar, same. But there is one difference. Dharmo hi tesham adhiko vishesho. Adhika vishesha, special qualification of human beings is the ability to inquire, why am I suffering? Why there is fear? Why there is death? How can I get out of this cycle? Once we start inquiring like this, then human life begins. If we don't do this, dharmena hina pashubhir samanam. We are simply 2-legged, sophisticated, well-dressed, polished animals. That's what Mahabharata says. So therefore, it is important that we understand that we are different from animals. Otherwise, if you are always defending, see, fear means basically defending. I have seen a dog in the night in India. If you go in the streets, the daytime the dog will not trouble you. And night time the dogs start barking because they're afraid that you are going to take. They feel it's their land, their lane. Everybody, countries, immigration policies, everywhere, everybody is barking. Why are you coming to our country? Everybody is scared. The defense expenditure goes to billions of dollars. Why do we keep our money in the bank? Because of fear. Defending. Security. You are now come to this program. You have locked your house. Right? You closed your house, locked your house and come here. Because you're afraid of dogs, cats, afraid of human beings. A rat is afraid of cat. Cat is afraid of dog. But humans are afraid of not cat or dog. Not only human being, sometimes family member only. In Mumbai, Pedder Road, there was a story recently of one 95-year-old woman. Her 75-year-old son was murdered. And when the investigations revealed, this 95-year-old woman had given money to some people to get her own son killed. Scary news, crazy news. So, because he had done something with the property, something crazy, bizarre news. The point I'm saying is human beings are living in so much insecurity, fear. Sometimes family members only we are afraid of. You've seen a hen eat food, grains. Hen is eating like this and constantly looking here and there. Why the hen keeps looking? The hen is afraid the cat will come from somewhere. But human beings, when we eat food, do you eat like this? Do we eat food like in fear? No, because human life is better. Eating, sleeping, mating, defending problems, human beings don't have like animals have. But if we don't inquire about higher truths, then we will have the same problems like animals. That is what scriptures say. And the fear element of the four, eating, sleeping, mating and defending, fear is most strong. Because it is fear which drives people to commit violence. It forces them to do things which they would never do. So we need to understand why this happens. According to Bhagavatam, fear exists because of duality. What is duality? So you are expecting more devotees, Prabhu? Because I already started 10 minutes. So I'll have to summarize for those who came in late. So
Yeah, I got it. But,
no, but it's okay. I'm just saying, are more devotees expected?
there are a couple of other people who said, but I think they got stuck with
Okay.
something. I'm not sure.
Okay. So we are discussing today on fear, for those of you who came in late. And we are discussing how humans and animals have this common element. And how our lives are driven by fear. And now we discuss different examples. Now we are discussing why this fear exists. Very important to understand why this exists. So the scriptures give a very interesting paradigm. Please listen to them attentively. Bhayam ditya nibeveshatasyat ishad apetasya viparyayo smriti. The Vedanta Sutra says, Bhaya, fear exists because of Dvitiya nibeshan, duality. Duality means two different things. Like duality means we have happiness and distress, rich, poor, beautiful, ugly. In this world, this is the world of duality. Two realities coexist. So fear exists whenever there is duality. Wherever I see myself as different from you, that duality is there. So whenever there is a duality, there is struggle. Resources are limited and demand for them is more. So Ditya Nibesh Ishad Apetasya, and this duality exists because we have got separated from the Lord. Viparyayo Smriti, our intelligence gets clouded and we become possessive. We are unable to see that we are all one. When we see ourselves as separate from others, there is always going to be fear. When we were small, I can see all of your from India, some Indian connection is there. So in India, Bollywood was in 1970s and 80s, Bollywood had a very cliched formula. The two brothers separated at birth. And then one fellow becomes good fellow, one becomes bad. And then the whole story, they have their own story. And then finally, they become enemies of each other. And they're fighting. And the last movie, last few minutes, the both are brother are about to kill each other. All action is happening, and they're about to kill each other. But one fellow is about to kill him, and suddenly he sees, "Hey, you have nishan, you have a mark. I also have mark. So we are brothers." Then they throw the weapon, then they embrace, they become brothers, and then they go and fight with the other enemy. So we are like that, we have problems with everybody because we don't know that we are all connected of the same Father. So because we live in duality, whenever there is duality, whenever the conception is I am separate from you, then there will be fear. This is what scripture says, and this is very profound. And suddenly in this movie, why this happened? Why they became best friends? Because they realized they have same father, they have same mother, they are brothers. But when they were seeing they were not brothers, they were fighting. Similarly, why we are always insecure with each other? Why we are fighting? Because we think you are different, I am different. But when we see you are same, when we see we love each other, we are all one, we belong to the same, we are children of the same Father, then there will be no fear. This is the Bhagavatam's verdict. And this fear exists amongst everyone, including devotees. Externally, we may be chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. But we are also chanting in fear only. If I don't chant, what will happen? All fear, fear, fear. Because we are not understanding that oneness. In many religions, they follow religion because their fear. If you don't follow our God, you will burn in hell. Religion also, there are 4 motivations. Lowest motivation is fear. The child is told, obey what the parents say or you will be punished. So the child obeys because of fear of punishment. Many people follow religion because they are afraid of burning in hell. Little higher than fear is reward. The child follows what the parents say because then he will get a chocolate. He will get a pizza. Oh, let me follow what my parents are saying. That is, reward is a motivation for the child. Similarly, some people follow religion because they will get virgins to enjoy in the heaven. Or they will get, in Hinduism, they say if you do this pious activity, you will go to heaven and enjoy in the Kadamba Kanana gardens. Every religion has its version of reward. In Christianity also there. So every religion have this. So some people are motivated to come to God because of fear. Some people reward. Third motivation is duty. My parents are doing so much for me, I should serve them.
Slow, both of them.
I think we are disturbing them.
Yeah, definitely.
There's no other place where they can do this, right?
They are doing their duty.
Huh?
They are doing their duty. They have no fear.
No, I'm asking, there's no other place they can do this. No, it's okay. I'm just asking. They are absorbed. I know? They are blissful.
Go to the same place where you had all those toys, you can sit there and do it. Take her also.
Or we should go. So basically, where are we? What are we discussing? First, we discussed about fear as all pervading. Everybody has fear. Animals, birds, and humans. This is the first topic we discussed. Second, we discussed why this fear exists. And what is the reason? According to Vedanta? Why the fear exists? Duality. When we see ourselves as separate from each other, fear will come. What is the example I gave for that? Movie, Bollywood movie. 2 brothers fighting. So that is how we are also fighting and insecure, fearful, because we are not seeing ourselves as children of the same God. And then we saw how religion also is motivated by fear. God will punish me. Punishment is one of the biggest motivations. Second motivation, reward. Third, duty. My parents are doing so much for me. Let me serve my parents. Some children do that. That is duty. Some people follow God because God is giving us light, water, food. So we are obliged. We are duty bound. But according to Krishna consciousness, all three are lower motivations. The highest motivation to follow religion or serve God is the fourth motivation, which is love. Love is greatest motivation. The child, if he serves parents because he loves the parent, that is greater motivation than fear, reward, and duty. Similarly, we are in Krishna consciousness. We are supposed to love God. When we love God, then fear will not exist. Are you getting this? Love will motivate us much more than fear. So, for example, I have seen in India, in America in my last 2 weeks, because I have traveled to, I've seen everywhere, Australia also, Europe also, London I've seen a lot. Outside India, parents have more anxiety about their children than India. Because in West, they are thinking what will happen to their children, the culture, and they are like really protective and fearful. So this is natural. But if we become attached to Krishna, in which are the four motivations? Love, then there will be no fear. Then you will be able to give the best to your child and also be detached. The Vedanta, the Niti Shastras explain. Bhogi roga bhayam kule chuti bhayam vitte nripalad bhayam mane denya balam bale ripu bhayam rupe jaraya bhayam shastre vadi bhayam khale guna bhayam kaye kritantad bhayam sarvam vastu bhayam bhuvi vidrma vairagyameva bhayam. Everybody is fearful. The scripture says, Bhogi roga bhayam. One who is enjoying is fearful of disease. Or when disease strikes, he gets shattered because his enjoyment is stopped. Sometimes some people I've seen in Mumbai, very wealthy people, they can really enjoy, but they are forced to eat only salad. They are only forced to eat some leaves and some dry, uncooked vegetable because they are diseased. And there is a poor man who cannot afford anything but some dry vegetable and leaf. So, poor man is not able to eat. The rich man can afford, but he can't enjoy. This is the reality. The reality and expectation gap is very real in this world. And all unhappiness stems from the fact that there is a gap between expectation and reality. What are the gaps in expectation and reality? First is enjoyment. Bhogi roga bhayam kule chuti bhayam. Somebody is a very billionaire, lot of wealth, is afraid of his legacy. Will his children take over? Are they good? Are they competent? We have one very big industrialist in Mumbai. Sorry?
Rahul Jhunjhunwala recently died, right? Rakesh Jhunjhunwala? Yeah.
Some 40,000 crores, 30,000 crores rupees. Yeah.
His last statement was there, like the one which you shared earlier.
So I know one industrialist, is a billionaire. His son is not at all interested in taking over his father's business, and this man is worth thousands and thousands of crores of rupees. So that anxiety is having. So this is how fear, insecurity exists in this world. Bhogi roga bhayam kule chuti bhayam vitte nripalad bhayam. A wealthy man is afraid of losing his money. Mane denya bhayam, one is honored a lot. Sambhavitasya chakirtir maranadatirichyate. Vedanta says, one who is honored, disrespect is worse than death. So that is also an anxiety and insecurity. Bale ripu bhayam, one is very strong, he is insecure of his rivals, his enemies. They may want to take over, they may want to harm him. Rupe Jaraya Bhayam, one is extremely beautiful. He or she is afraid of old age creeping in, wrinkles, hair turning grey. This insecurity is there. Bhogi roga bhayam kulechit bhayam vitte nripala bhayam mane dene bhayam bale rupam rupe jaraya bhayam shastre vadi bhayam. One is very learned. When somebody else presents better, he becomes insecure. Shastre vadi bhayam khale guna bhayam. One who is a criminal is afraid of being caught by the police, apprehended by the lawmakers. Khale guna bhayam kaye krutanta bhayam. So, if somebody has everything, he is afraid of death. Death is a reality. So then the last line says, the only way we can get out of fearful situations in life is vairagyam, detachment. There has to be an inner spirit of detachment. Externally we may be attached. We may do whatever is needful, but internally we need to be detached. Knowing that I don't belong to this world. I am not this body. Just like I say, this is my watch, which means this watch is separate from me. I am not the watch. Similarly, we say this is my body, right? How do we, like I say, this is my hand, my head, my face. And what is this? I say this is my body. That means my body is separate from me. I am not this body. So we need to understand that I, the real I, is separate from this body and all the things attached to this body. Only on that platform we can experience detachment. And only when we have detachment, we'll be fearless. You may be very attached to your house, to your children, which is natural and necessary. I'll repeat. Attachment to family, wealth is natural and also necessary. But at the same time, we need to cultivate an inner spirit of detachment, knowing that these things can be taken away anytime from me. And then we need to connect ourselves to something eternal, something beyond the perishable things of this world. And when we do that, then we become detached and we also become fearless. Srila Prabhupada, at the age of 70, he went to America to spread the teachings of Krishna consciousness. So when he came here, at the age of 70, he was from Bengal, India, with a heavy Bengali accent, an old man, surviving 2 heart attacks in a cargo ship. He knows nobody in New York and is staying in the Bowery, where there are snipers around, and he is walking around fearlessly, depending on Krishna. Because he had this inner spirit of attachment to Krishna and detachment from this world. In fact, one day he used to get up late at night. 1 o'clock in the morning, he would wake up and he would start translating his books. And around 1:30 in the night, when there was a knock on his door. It was winter, very cold. He opens the door and he sees a young 19-year-old girl outside his room. Eyes are big and she's like high on drugs. Because that area, the Bowery, a lot of drug addicts and hippies will also stay. And this girl looks at Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada says, "Who are you? Why have you come in? What are you doing here at 1 o'clock in the night? I'm an old man doing translation work. Why are you disturbing me?" And she just looks at Prabhupada and says, "Hoo la la la." Crazy. And look at this man. Srila Prabhupada is 70-year-old man, away from India, no relatives in America, and he's doing his translation work. And he looks at this girl and says, he's confident, he knows what he's doing. He tells her, "Why the hell are you disturbing me? Please leave." She enters the house, the apartment where Srila Prabhupada is staying. Now, out of a defense mechanism, Srila Prabhupada comes out of the house because the sannyasi is a sannyasi. He's not supposed to have interactions with women. So he comes out of the house. So when he comes out, she also comes out, but she pulls the door along. And that's a self-locking door. So now both of them are out of the house and he doesn't have a key and it's cold. And then he looks at her and says, "You stupid girl, do you know what you've done now? We are both locked out of the house and it's 1:30 in the night." And she just looks at Prabhupada and says, "Ooh, la la la." That's all she's able to say. But then Srila Prabhupada starts thinking, what do I do now? Then he remembers Mukunda has a key. Mukunda stays somewhere close by. Where is he staying? So he starts recalling, goes to different places, knocks on different doors. So, and this girl is walking with him. Ooh la la, she's just shouting in between. So then finally Prabhupada meets Michael Grant, who is now known as Mukunda. And then he has a spare key. And he's shocked to see this girl and Prabhupada. And he tells her, "You stupid, what are you doing? You girl, who are you?" So she's again in a crazy thing. But then Prabhupada, he has a spare key. So he gets Prabhupada to the house, opens the door, Srila Prabhupada enters the house, and then he drives that girl away. And Srila Prabhupada goes back to his room. So 1:30 this happened. This goes on till 3 o'clock in the morning. So you have spent 1.5 hours of your precious translation time in this. I mean, if it were to happen to us, we would be so disturbed, right? But Srila Prabhupada comes back to his desk and starts translating as if nothing has happened. Continues his work as nothing has happened. And then he comes down for the morning class at 7 a.m. and he gives everyday morning class. And he's surprised that in the audience, this girl is also seated. She is now all right. She's sober. In the morning, few hours have passed. And she's sitting in the class. And Prabhupada looks at her. And Prabhupada says, "Ooh la la la." Srila Prabhupada says that out of a sense of humor, jokes. So look at his confidence and fearlessness. An old man surviving 2 heart attacks, coming to America, not knowing anyone, and encountering such crazy people. And still he is able to go on because he is attached to a higher reality beyond this body. So therefore we need to understand, first of all, have this knowledge and understand that we are separate from the body. And then connect to a higher reality through the process of chanting, hearing and service that we are rendering. And then as we cultivate this, we get fearlessness. We are able to execute our duties in a spirit of detachment. So at this point of time, I'll pause and we can have some discussions or questions. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I have a question. So, Prabhuji, how can we cultivate an unconditional love towards Lords that can take care of the fear, anxiety, and dutifulness, as you told, and other things that are lower motivation? How can we cultivate that unconditional love? I mean, I know very little, but I just want to hear from your words.
Lao Tzu said that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a small step. So you begin with a small step, which means we right now we go to God for what we need, right? So continue that. And maybe once in a day, you can offer a small prayer. Krishna, what can I do for you? How can I please you? Generally, we think of God as someone who is existing to fulfill my desires. God is busy solving my problems. Otherwise, God has no existence. That's our misconception. We think God means He has to solve my problem. And whole day we are in that consciousness. Even if we are God conscious, we are thinking of God in terms of me, I, and mine. So once in a day, for some time, when you're chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna, out of the 16 rounds or whatever rounds you're chanting, Krishna, how can I please you? What can I do for you? That's the first step in unconditional love. See, it's like a relationship. You love someone, one man and woman, let's say they love each other very much, boyfriend, girlfriend, just as an example I'm giving. So imagine you love your beloved, and whenever you meet your beloved, it's all about you. I love you, I like this, it's all about you. How long will the relationship last? In any loving relationship, it's not only about you, it's also about the other person. But Krishna is so kind, He's willing to have a loving relationship with you although it's all about you. But we have to be a little sensitive and understand that if I really want a close relationship, intimate relationship with Krishna, then I need to also enter Krishna's space. Krishna, what do you like? Krishna, what do you want me to do? How do you want me to serve the devotees? What can I do to come closer to you? Just think of a relationship in this world and use the same principle for Krishna. And that's how you begin to develop unconditional love. Is that okay?
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
So devotees can keep the questions relevant to the current discussion, current topic. Any other questions?
I have one question. Like you said, you have to experience oneness. So, how we can, theoretically we know what is oneness is, but how we can bring it in our experience, that oneness?
Yeah, you can try something. Have you ever experienced? See, I'm seeing in US while we were driving from Farmington, beautiful trees, nature in abundance. So when you go on a mountain trek, when you go to forest, when you go to oceans, do you feel a sense of peace? Why do you? Have you ever wondered why you feel that?
Silence, there is no noise. Silence and beauty.
There is something more. Like when you see a huge banyan tree, like in our temple in Mumbai, we have a banyan tree which is 500 years old. Huge tree. So when I sit under that tree, I feel a sense of peace. Why? A sense of shelter. Why? Because that tree appears to be timeless in relation to my body. It's 500 years old, but it appears to have existed for a long, long, long time. When you sit on the bank of the ocean, you feel calmness because the ocean has been existing forever. The mountains seem to have been there for eternity. And that's why you feel divine, you feel spiritual when you go to a mountain, right? But you feel that because there is something within you which is also like the mountain, the ocean, and the forest, which never dies, which is eternal. So there is a meeting of that eternity within you and that eternal, so-called eternal mountain, ocean. So the point I'm saying is this connection, this can happen when you connect to nature, when you pause, when you press the pause button in your life. If you're running from one activity to another, constantly living in the external world, then it's very difficult to connect with yourself. And when you don't connect, you can't experience oneness. So you need to spend time, maybe to try, you could attempt being in nature, or start chanting Hare Krishna where you are listening to the holy name. When you enter the space of listening, attention, then you are entering the space of transcendental meditation.
Yes, you are right. And then I have experienced that, and then what happened, you have certain tendencies in your mind that overpower your mind. So how you can keep those tendencies aside and remain in that oneness?
See, remaining in oneness doesn't mean that you will not be distracted by the situations and challenges of this world,
Yes.
right? So, when you're able to accept yourself the way you are with all your inadequacies without judging yourself,
Yes.
then you're making the first step towards experiencing that oneness. But if you're constantly berating yourself for not being the perfect person that you wish to be, then you'll always be in duality.
And what I noticed that to remain in this materialistic world, you have to keep that ego alive and keep your identity alive, like what you like, because when you start experiencing oneness, then you start forgiving people and you start feeling like, okay, I don't want to overpower my tendencies, I don't want those tendencies to be back. but to be survive in a materialistic world and to be thrive in it, you need to keep those things. So it's kind of like to keep that balance alive, and at the same time, so you wanted to progress on the spiritual world also. So it's kind of like very hard to balance these.
See,
two
you are saying
things.
this right now because you are struggling.
Mhm.
But if you enter the space of surrender, which is spend some time every day where you are not judging, where you are forgiving, not just others, but also yourself. And when you spend more time in the space of oneness, then the transition would be smooth. You will be able to navigate in this world without much difficulty, because we are right now thinking that we needed a separate identity. No, you can always operate on the space of surrender to the divinity and also be effective in this world. It's possible. You don't have to be cruel. You don't have to have a dualistic world. It's possible because you'll be driven by a sense of connection to the soul, and in that stage of peace you'll be more effective. It's like a boat is in the water, but you don't allow the water to come inside the boat.
Yes.
So similarly, you can be in this world, but not allow the world to enter you. That's possible. That's possible when you are connected internally to the space of eternity. When you're experiencing oneness, you can actually be effective in the outside world. You can be. You don't have to play two games. You don't have to play the double mind game. You don't have to. But right now we can't conceive of it because we feel I've never done it. I've never been like that. But it's possible. And that's the whole Bhagavad Gita is all about. Krishna is telling Arjuna, Tasma sarveshu kaleshu ma manusmaredvacha. Fight, but remember me internally. So internally we need to be connected to the Lord. Externally, without judging, we may have to fight. Like for example, you may be on a business, you may be negotiating something, a deal, or you may be competing in some event. So you may have to fight, but that fight is at the external level, motivated by compassion internally. So therefore, connection to spiritual practices is extremely important. Don't let us cross the bridge when we come to it. Don't anticipate, don't assume that it's impossible. Just right now focus on spending some time every day in the space of being connected to the divine.
Yeah, actually, I do meditation every morning or otherwise in the night. But I think in the daytime, you are right. What happened with me is that when I own that feeling of oneness, at that time I start forgiving people for their mistake, and then I start accepting it as they are. And somewhere I keep myself aside, but in that process, I feel myself that I'm not progressing in the materialistic world. I may be progressing in the spiritual world. So I think you are right that we have to keep that peace and calmness inside ourselves, but at the same time we can be progress in the materialistic world. So there is kind of I'm not able to balance those two things.
So you can do like this. You can do what you need to do. You do it on the outside world. Just spend a few minutes every day in this space of forgiveness, in this space of oneness.
Okay.
After that, you come out and do what you need to do.
Okay.
But you increase your quality and the quantity of your connection, your meditation, and eventually a time will come when both identities will merge.
Okay. Yeah.
It will happen.
Right. Thank you.
Is that okay?
Yes.
So I have a comment and a question. So my comment is, I always thought about fear. It's always something that before I had my children, I was fearing two things: giving birth and dying. I did the first one; it wasn't too bad. So now the second one. And then I did some research about fear, and I realized that the oldest and strongest emotion of humankind is fear. And the oldest and strongest kind of fear is the fear of the unknown. And then I look back at everything that gave me fear, and it's because I didn't know the outcome of what's going to happen. So, and I still have a hard time. So, I was wondering, how can you? I keep telling myself you're nothing in the
Cosmos.
landscape of the universe. You're nothing. What's happening now? It's not a big deal, and you should not fear that because there is so much more than this. but it doesn't sit with me. I still fear so much. I still have cramps in my stomach and things when I don't know, and that's the struggle I have. So I was like, do you have any?
Yeah.
Um,
We need what is called as a home state in our inner world, which is a space where you feel safe, a sense of belonging, and shelter and peace. Like, for example, for me, it is journaling. For some people, it's prayers. For some people, it's breathing meditation. For some people, it's when they're absorbed in study of scriptures. So there is some activity or a state of being in our inner world where we feel a sense of belonging. And if you spend some time there every day, that's called your home state. That's your home in the inner world. Then you will feel loved. You will feel tiny, insignificant, yet you will feel happy. Yet you will feel fearless. I'll give an example. 2 years ago during the COVID, I was staying with my mother. She was very sick. And this is a small village in India, southern India. And she was having mental health issues. And I was having a difficult time taking care of her. I was with her for 8 months. But fortunately, by the Lord's grace, I could spend every day 2-3 hours intensely in my home state, which was breathing, journaling, praying. So I was in a space for that period. I was safe every day. And then a test came. One day in the night, my mom was lying on the bed, and suddenly there was a cyclone. And the coconut trees were swinging erratically, and the things were falling from the trees on the terrace of our house, and all the electricity went off. And I couldn't take my mother anywhere in the dark outside. It was as if anything could happen. It was as if the ceiling was going to fall off and we're all going to die. I just held my mother's hand, and such an amazing sense of peace engulfed my heart. I can't describe it, it's ineffable. I felt totally insignificant and tiny, as you rightly said in the beginning. In the scheme of things, when we compare the gigantic universe, we are nobody, right? I actually felt that I am completely insignificant, everything is going to dissolve. At the same time, I felt a sense of peace. Generally, in this world, insignificance and tininess is compared to losing something. In the external world, if you want to be happy, it is assumed that you need to have control. You need to possess things. But you enter a spiritual dimension when you feel utterly insignificant yet peaceful and loved. And this is exactly what I experienced. When I was with my mother, I was like, okay, death is going to come now, I'm ready. I just held her hand. So that sense of peace was amazing. And then after some time, the cyclone abated, things sorted out, and then I could manage the house the way I wanted to. I could take charge of the situation. So why I'm saying this incident is because of my practice for 7-8 months, when the test came, I was ready. So if you can spend every day some time in an area where you feel loved, in an activity where you feel a sense of peace, and believe me, mind you, it can't be electronic gadget. You can't say I can spend 6 hours on Netflix. That's not, because that's not a reality. That's not even temporary reality. That is a mirage. If you were to see rain outside your window and you see rain on an electronic screen, which one will help you connect better? The real rain, right? So there is something inherently flawed in electronic world. It's not real. So we're talking about the real world, although it's temporary. But if you can connect to some activity or state of existence in this real world for some time every day and experience a sense of peace and connection, then the fear will eventually make way for fearlessness. That experience of oneness will be a static feeling. It will always remain. I know some devotees in the Hare Krishna movement who've been there in the movement for 40 plus years, and they have confessed to me, because when I asked them, probing questions and deeply sincere questions. They have told me that life has not been easy for them, although they have been Hare Krishna devotees. They have had challenges, difficulties, because life is harsh. At the same time, they have confessed that they have felt a deep sense of peace within, consistently, over the last 30 years. So although the mind may be troubling, issues may be happening, but there is something that is giving them a sense of belonging, shelter, and safety. So therefore, the state of fearlessness, which is a home state, we need to spend some time every day, so that when we are actually in trouble, we can go to our home state very natural. So for me, I've got a basket of 15 activities which I've identified, and every day I spend some time in those activities. If not all, at least some time, at least some of those things. So you need to first recognize what gives you shelter and spend time there. If you come to a Hare Krishna program, we will tell you the different ways you could find your home state. We have 64 items of devotional service. But that's simply a tool for you, but you could also have your own discovery. Like I need to go on a nature walk. Wherever I am, I put on my shoes, my track pant, and I go out of the house early in the morning and I walk for an hour. Today morning also I walked for an hour. And then I come back. So we all need something like that. And then when the inevitable happens, when the time will come when we will be wiped off this planet, because we are simply a statistic. We mean nothing in the 7 billion plus human beings and countless other living entities. Who are we? At the same time, we are a tiny spirit soul which is part and parcel of God. We are Satchidananda, we are eternal, fully conscious and fully blissful. For this paradox of being utterly insignificant at the same time being a beautiful soul, a part and parcel of God, that experience, that combined experience of insignificance and love is the home state. And that is this platform of fearlessness. That's when you can embrace depth. Socrates was charged with conspiring against the state by influencing the young minds of Athens. And he was told to drink hemlock, the poison. And when he was fed the hemlock, what did he say? He smiled. He said, you have to first catch me before you kill me. Because he knew that he's not this body. He had transcended all fear. And we can't do it artificially though. Srila Prabhupada was flying from Dallas to New Orleans in 1975. And the plane suddenly in midair ran into a turbulent weather. And the plane actually, it appeared as if it's going to crash. The overhead bins opened, the things were falling off, people were screaming, yelling. And Srila Prabhupada's servant recalls this story later on, that Srila Prabhupada was sitting in his seat, and he was just chanting quietly, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. No expressions. Everybody was going crazy. Srila Prabhupada was just quiet. And then finally, after some time, the plane kind of stabilized, and then when they landed safely, there was all ambulances and all the things at the airport. It was a big drama, big thing. And then finally they landed safely and everybody cheered. It was a big thing. And throughout the entire episode, Srila Prabhupada was calm and composed. And then the servant thought Prabhupada would say something. He has to give some comment. So then he looked at him, and Prabhupada looked at him, and now the devotee thought, now Srila Prabhupada is going to say something profound. And the only thing Srila Prabhupada said was, so how long is the temple from the airport? That's all. It didn't matter to him at all. He was not in this plane. That doesn't mean we don't live in this world. See, that's what I'm trying to say. Our foot has to be firmly on the ground, but our head has to be high. Sometimes we think of spirituality and we forget, we lose the ground here, We get disconnected from our family, from the realities of this world. And sometimes we are so occupied with our problems that we fail to see the bigger picture, that we are insignificant. So we need to have this balance. We need to be able to see that I'm completely insignificant in this gigantic cosmos. And at the same time, I have my duties, responsibility, attachments here. Let me do them well. And when these things get overwhelming, I see up. And when I get lost and it becomes abstract, I come down. So this is how we lead a life of balance. And then we should trust nature. We should trust the universe to take care of us. Because we are insignificant. And that insignificance is not to make us feel lowly. It's to liberate us. It's to give us a sense of freedom. You know, when I was a young boy, one movie had a profound effect on me. There's a black and white Hindi movie called Do Bhiga Zameen. It's a story of a young man who is struggling to get a small piece of land in the feudal Indian system. He's struggling to get his too small piece of land. He's fighting, he's going through the courts. And the whole movie is about his struggle. And the last scene of the movie is where he loses the final battle. And he loses that piece of land. I mean, the entire movie is he's trying to get that small piece of land, but the movie, the protagonist, the main hero, he loses that land. And I was thinking, oh, it's a tragedy. I mean, but then the climax, the main part of the movie of that last 30 seconds in the movie, when after he's lost everything, the camera focuses, zooms on him, he's standing on that land, and the camera is from an aerial vision where he's alone and there's a huge expanse of land, and he raises his hand and he starts laughing. And he says, whoa, till now I was fighting for that small piece of land and that was mine. Now I lost it. Now the entire earth is mine. He became liberated, you know. So right now, many of us, we are trapped by our own mind, by our attachments. So your child is your biggest attachment, which is healthy, which is natural, which is necessary. But you need to also meditate on your insignificance and how everything will be taken away from you. Either the things you're attached to will be taken away from you, or you will be separated from the object that you're attached to. So preparing for that is a journey of spirituality. But not in an artificial way, not in an impulsive way, but through grace and dignity, by meditation, by contemplation, by reflection, by service. Service helps us go beyond ourselves. And then when we do that, life becomes beautiful paradox, where I'm utterly insignificant, at the same time, I am completely at peace. That's what Srila Prabhupada experienced in that airplane. You know, plane could have crashed, but because he was already prepared for it. So that's how it is. Is that okay? Does that somewhere address your... Thank you.
You're talking about the oneness, Prabhuji, the philosophy, the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu already explained the Achinta Veda Veda. Then the theory of the duality is the part of also the consistence, right? This word is the place of miseries, where this is natural. It's going to take place, right? The duality will definitely be happening. Life, death, happiness.
Correct.
Then how do we correlate, like the Achinta Veda Veda means we are the oneness and we are the different, right? To understand those philosophy, then we can correlate somehow. This is...
We are one with the Lord and we are also separate.
Yeah, same thing, like we are happy, we are feeling sorrow. Then the duality is also exists there, right?
I'm not able to understand your question, honestly.
The duality means like two different...
So Prabhuji, like you were mentioning about duality.
Correct.
So he is asking if you're talking about Advaitvad by saying no duality.
Oh, okay.
Duality also exists.
Okay, got it. So it is like this. We are one with the Lord. We are same as God, according to scriptures. God is Sat Chit Ananda, eternal, fully conscious, fully blissful. We are also a part and parcel of God. We are fully conscious, fully blissful. The difference is we are tiny in quantity. The Lord is Vibhu, we are Anu. We are infinitesimal, the Lord is infinite. Just like a drop of water in the ocean is also salty and the ocean is also salty. Right? So similarly, we are one with the Lord, but we are tiny. Unfortunately, most of us devotees, we all the time focus on how we are separate from the God, how we are separate from the Lord. Our entire focus is on how we are not God. So because of that, we live in duality. Therefore, we also need to focus and meditate on how we are one with God. Because constantly saying, I am not godly makes us lean towards duality. Therefore, our philosophy is both oneness with God and difference. But we are focused so much on the difference that difference leads to duality. Therefore, we also need to focus on the oneness. We need to see oneness in everything and everywhere. Because that is our philosophy. Mahaprabhu said we are achintya bheda and abheda. So we are one with Krishna. And because we are not seeing that oneness, we are living in this duality. Duality is a reality. But that's not the only reality, right? So devotees need to experience that they are godly. If they don't experience Krishna, if they don't experience their spiritual self, then spiritual life will be very theory. It will be a dry theory. We may be chanting the whole day. We may have big tilak and dhoti kurta. We may be saying Hari Bols. But externally we'll be a devotee, but internally we'll be fear-driven. There are so many devotees also in fear. Why do we fight amongst each other? Why devotees have conflicts? Because duality, fear. And have we not seen communities, devotee communities face conflicts? We have seen. That means because we are focusing so much on the differences all the time. So therefore, yes, this world is a place of harsh reality, suffering, but we need to focus on the oneness also. Because we are one with God ultimately.
I have two questions. One might be a little off the topic, but when you're talking about oneness, how would you address the current state of the world when people are asking you to address yourself or identify yourself with pronouns and
As?
different things?
Pronouns.
And
Oh yeah, I heard about it.
different, identifying themselves other than the natural three lingas. And then the second one is, how do you inculcate and practice detachment in your everyday life? If you're brahmachari, or if you're able to get married and live a,
We'll take the first one first.
Sure.
Yeah, the second one is getting. So yeah, I heard about it when I was in Madrid. Devotees were telling me about this LGBTQ plus 75, so many identities, and so I've been. I'm getting orientation. I'm getting learning about all this. But I come from a tradition where this was inconceivable for us. So I'm learning the ways of life. At the same time, see, all these identities are part of this world. They are part of the bodily existence. Spiritual life means we are transcending bodily existence. So it's not about male and female. We are just not male. We are neither female. We are a pure spirit soul. But at the external level, as cultures change, as times change, different things come up, and it may be overwhelming for some of us, and we may have the answers. Some of us may not have the answers. Like I don't have the answers, because these are issues related to this world, and our focus as teachers of Vedanta, Bhagavad Gita, is to help people connect to an identity beyond male, female, and the genders of this world, right? But I'm not discounting the importance of the reality of this, because we have to live in this world. So you'll have to talk to people who are experts here, who can navigate through. But our essential teaching of Bhagavad Gita is whatever, whether you're a male, female, or different genders and different permutations, combinations, whatever it is, ultimately you are not that. You are ultimately beyond all of that. You are a spirit soul who is beyond all bodily identification. You are not an American. You are not a Hindu, you are not a Muslim, you are not a Chinese, you are ultimately a pure spirit soul, a part and parcel of God. And when we see ourselves as part and parcels of God, and when we see others as children of God, we love everyone at the spiritual level. But externally, we may have to do something. Whatever needs to be done has to be done. So that's the way I see it. Okay. And regarding the second part, where you said, I lost
Detachment.
it. How do we practice detachment in our day-to-day life? Right? So this answer is similar to what I spoke to her. Spending some time every day in a space where you're not of this world, where you don't belong to this world. Like, we have some devotees in ISKCON, in our temple. They spend every day 5 minutes in the morning. Actually, they keep an alarm. They have the smartphone. They take an alarm and they set the alarm for 10 minutes. and they keep the phone, and they sit in front of their altar. They have the Radha, Krishna, Gaur Nitai, and they sit and they offer prayers. Krishna, I love you. Please help me connect with you. I don't belong to this world, but I have duties in this world. Please help me. So they converse with the Lord. But what happens? The mind is nasty. Mind keeps going here and there. So at 10 minutes, the alarm rings, and then they know that they need to stop now. Otherwise, the mind will take them the whole day, and they won't be connecting to the Lord. So the 10-minute alarm is when they stop the phone, and then they end their prayer with 1-minute prayer. Krishna, I tried my best to connect with you. I tried my best to be detached from this world and be attached to you, but my mind was going all around. But I did my best. Let me come back to you again in the evening. I want to give you a report of what happened today. I belong to you. I don't belong to this world. And then they end that prayer session in the morning. And the night before going to take rest, again they set an alarm, they connect with the Lord. So if you try this every day for a few minutes, at least once a day, when you connect with the Lord, then you are learning detachment from this world, although you're involved. Because you're attaching yourself to a higher reality. And eventually a time will come when throughout the day, in the middle of your activities, you'll be immediately able to connect to the Lord. As you are faced with an overwhelming situation, like I spoke in the beginning of the class, I lost my bag in the Madrid airport. My passport was all gone. In those 5 minutes, I was intensely praying. So it can happen if you have a practice. And how do we do it? Again, I was answering her question, the first question, about the principle of love in this world. If you love someone very much, I know so many grahasthas, before they go to work, they spend first 1 hour with their family. They connect with their spouse and the children, and then they go to work. And after work, they come back and they again connect with the family. Similarly, before we begin our day, we can spend some time connecting with Krishna, God, and then again in the end of the day, we can connect with the Lord. So that way, what is happening is, when a man comes home from work or a woman comes home from work and connects with the family, and before going to work, you connect with your family, you are sending out a loud message that for me, my family is most important, my work is secondary. Similarly, when we connect with Krishna, God, beginning of the day and end of the day, we are sending out a loud message that my attachment to the Lord and the higher reality is more important for me than the responsibilities and duties of this world, because these things will end one day. This will be taken away brutally, cruelly. Whoever you are, we are smashed, our attachments are crushed. So better we prepare ourselves for that connection with the Lord. So that's how we do. Just like in this world, when I was working many years ago, I had my office colleague who would keep his pet's photo on his table. And you would look at it, you would feel solace, you would feel happy. So then I was inspired by him. On my table, I started keeping Krishna's photo. There are people who love their spouse, their girlfriend, boyfriend. In a day, 5-6 times they call them. How are you? They chat on WhatsApp. And they continue doing what they are doing. So why can't we do that with Krishna? Why can't we spend some time in the middle of our work, chanting some Hare Krishna, calling out to the Lord, offering a silent prayer, expressing gratitude, and then come back to your duties of this world. So that way you are developing detachment, because eventually when things will be taken away from us, we will be ready. Otherwise, if we delay this, when we are old and when it's actually going to be taken away from us, we won't be able to connect to the Lord. I saw it in front of my own eyes. One of our very senior members in the temple, his great grandfather was dying at the age of 95. So we were all surrounding him and we were chanting and we were telling him, please take God's name. He was not able to understand what we were telling him. And just before dying, you know what he did? He started doing like this. He was gasping for breath, but his actions were like this. And that's how he died. And I was wondering, what is he doing? And then his grandson, who is the devotee, he told me that my grandfather, from the age of 8 till the age of 85, every day he spent in our cloth shop measuring cloth. He did that the whole day, his entire life, never chanted Krishna, never prayed to God. Even when he was dying, he was only connected to the activities of this world. This happened. We had one Bengali lady. Any Bengalis here? No. This Bengali lady was a very elderly lady, And we told her, please chant Hare Krishna. She was dying we have a devotee hospital. And we said, Mataji, you are dying, you have cancer, the last stages, you're not going. So just surrender to God. And she's saying, no. She says, it's too difficult. I can't do it. She just couldn't do it. But then her son called from the US. She could speak to him for half an hour. But she couldn't chant for 1 minute. And finally, when we told her, Mataji, you are dying. Please remember the Lord. And just say Hare Krishna. You know what she said? What did we tell her to say? Hare Krishna. 2 words. You know what she said? Baba re Baba, etto bado naam bolte parbo na. And then she died. What she meant was, oh Baba re Baba, oh my God, it is such a, not God, Baba re Baba means, oh my dear, Baba re Baba, etto bado naam, this is such a big name, bolte parbo na, I cannot speak it. She could speak so much, but she couldn't say Hare Krishna. So when we are only absorbed in activities of this world, then it's like, we are stuck here on the ground. Okay, I'll end with this. I have to rush for another program, but I'll end with this one powerful concept. This can change your life. This is called ladder of abstraction. How many of you have heard of this concept? If you know this concept, then you will be able to practice spiritual life, detachment, and fearlessness and oneness. Everything will be harmonized if you understand the concept of ladder of. What is abstraction? Abstract, something which is vague. Imagine a ladder, okay? On top of the ladder is the most abstract concept, like love or oneness is very abstract. Top of the ladder. Bottom of the ladder is something very specific, least abstract. Clear? So when you go from bottom of the ladder to the top of the ladder, you're going from something very specific, observable, measurable, objective to something which is getting more and more subtler. So I'll give an example. Vehicle is abstract. When I say the word vehicle, it's at the top of the ladder of abstraction. Because vehicle could be anything. But if I say car, then I've come middle of the ladder of abstraction. Are you getting it?
Yes.
If I say black colored BMW, then I have come to the bottom of the ladder of abstraction. Are you getting this? If I say food is at the top of the ladder of abstraction. If I say wheat flour or bread, that's like middle of the abstraction. But if I say pizza with olives and jalapeno, if I specify, then I've come to the bottom of the ladder of abstraction. So in our lives, when we talk about meditation, anything, meditation, love, all these things, you have to ask yourself, where am I? Am I in the top of the ladder of abstraction, middle or bottom? Some of us are stuck in the bottom of the ladder of abstraction. Some of us are stuck in the top. An intelligent person, mature person is he who knows how to keep going up and down. He knows when to go up, he knows when to come down. When you're too attached to your child and daughter and they're giving you pain, because I know so many mothers, they say they love their child, but are you happy with your child? No, I'm not always happy, but I love my child, because there are different emotions. So you need to know when to go to the top of the ladder, when you need to know when to look at the bigger picture. Like I'll tell you an example. We had in our monastery, we had a monk who remained a monk for 15-20 years, and then he got married. So we went to his house for lunch. So his wife said something interesting. So we were there, my friend Gaur Gopal, we were all there taking lunch. And then we asked, Mataji, how did you meet your husband? How did you meet this friend of ours? You are married now for the last 5 years. But then she said an interesting story. She said, when we were seeing each other before marriage, whenever we would meet, he would tell me, today I want to talk to you 3 things. 1, 2, 3. Every time we met, he had something specific to discuss. So I would tell him, why don't you just be? Why do you always have to have agenda? And then I laughed. I said, Mataji, you know why he's like that? Because he was a manager in the monastery. He was always stuck where, which in the ladder of abstraction, where was he stuck? Bottom, only 1, 2, 3, 4. He used to only talk about 1, 2, 3, 4 things. But then she said, "Oh, no wonder," because when he was dating her, he was only talking about specific things. But then she said, "Prabhu, it took me 4 years to repair him. Now he's all right." And then coincidentally, next week we went to another house for lunch. He was also a monk for some years, and his wife said an interesting story. She said, "Prabhu, when we got married, I had a tough time with my husband. That time I wanted to meet you and tell you what kind of training you are giving in your brahmachari ashram. Because my husband, whenever I would discuss something important with him, like, we had to discuss about the mortgage, about the bills, he would say, 'Krishna will take care.' For, for everything, he was like saying, 'God is there. Just depend on Krishna.'" So where was he stuck? At the top of the ladder of abstraction. So many of us are like that. We'll say Achintya Beda Beda, philosophy, love, oneness, and it's all abstract. And some of us, "Oh, I have this problem. How to solve this problem?" Arey, your problems cannot be solved. Some problems cannot be solved. Come up, rise above. So we need to evolve. Like a small girl I saw in our Govardhan Eco Village farm. She saw one of the cows. And she said, "Lakshmi, Lakshmi." Lakshmi was the name of another cow. So I told her, "This is not Lakshmi, this is some other name of the cow." But I was surprised that she thought, when she heard the name Lakshmi, she thought every animal is Lakshmi. Because she was stuck in the bottom of the ladder of abstraction. Then I told her, because she is the daughter of my friend, so I told her, this is another cow. So she learned that, Lakshmi is not a name for every animal. There is also something called as cow. Next day, in our farm, we also have horses. I was with her and she saw the horse and she said, "Cow, cow, cow." But then I had to tell her, "No, this is a horse, that was a cow, both are animals." And the next day we took her to the bird sanctuary. She saw the birds and she said, "Animal, animal." Then we had to tell her, "No, birds are different, animals are different." So what I'm trying to say is that slowly she will evolve. Eventually she will come to understand that there is God, there is oneness, there is universe, there is something beyond me. So we as spiritual practitioner means one who is willing to go up the ladder of abstraction. Because the attachments you have right now in your respective families, especially to your children, to your spouse, this is natural, this is necessary, and this will keep you humble, this will keep you grounded, this will keep you filled with emotions, which you can then offer to Krishna. Because when you see, attachments mean suffering, right? And natural. And suffering means you can turn to God with feeling. And when you turn to God with feeling, you will see your heart churn with spiritual emotions, and you will be able to slowly go up in the ladder of abstraction. If you don't turn to Krishna, you'll be stuck. Your only attachments will keep you stuck at the bottom of the ladder of abstraction. But if you are an artificial renunciant who's put on renounced order clothes and who's always speaking about lofty things, renounced order people can be stuck in the top of the ladder of abstraction. That is the risk they have. And grihasthas like you, because of your attachments, you can be stuck in the bottom of the ladder of abstraction. So we need to meet. I need to come down, you need to come up. So we need to evolve like that. So that's how we can understand oneness, detachment. Is that okay? Can we stop here? It's 3:25.
Can I ask if online anybody has questions?
Please.
Hare Krishna. Anybody would like to ask any questions from the devotees who are online? Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, thank you so very much for such an amazing lecture. Thank you so very much, Prabhuji. I really like the comparison of when you said about the boat and the ocean.
Yeah.
Sit in the boat, but we don't let the ocean come in the boat. Hare
Yeah.
Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
If anybody else has any questions, you can let Prabhuji.
One last thing maybe. So you mentioned about fear, how to go to fearlessness, but most of the time we've been talking about fear which is unhealthy. Is there a healthy fear also which needs to be there, or?
Oh yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. Fear of betraying our own values. Like you have certain value systems, I'm sure. And many times we betray our own values But again, if you have done that, instead of beating yourself up, come back. But unfortunately, what happens is, people start, guilt is good, I've done something bad, but then they let that guilt slip to shame. I've done bad is okay, but I am bad. So that stories which we tell ourselves, that is terrible. So we are not International Society for Guilt Consciousness. But yeah, fear of breaking the heart of someone we love, fear of betraying our own values, that's healthy fear. Because then you will not be able to, then it's very painful. It's very painful to the heart. So we can cultivate that fear. But don't be obsessed. Because if you are always afraid of breaking your values, then you will actually break your values. What you resist, it persists. If you keep saying, I'm bad, this is bad, I'm bad, then the mind registers it, and that very activity which you are trying to avoid comes back to your life. So healthy fear is when you acknowledge it is wrong, but you don't obsess with it.
And for survival also.
Yeah. In this world.
Kind of a fear,
Yeah.
like
Otherwise you jump off the train. Mind will protect us. But unfortunately what happens, the mind protects us, but sometimes it protects us so much that it prevents us from growing. You know what I'm saying? Like, mind protects us. That's why we don't jump off the train, for example. We don't put our hand in fire because the mind is there to protect us. But that very mind, it becomes overprotective and prevents us from exploring spiritual life and growing and taking up challenges or chanting more or doing some devotional service. Your mind becomes overprotective. Therefore, we need to have a healthy fear of betraying our own values. At the same time, we should not be obsessed with it. If you have slipped in life, rise and march ahead. Be forgiving and gentle with yourself. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Let's thank Prabhuji by 3 lines, loudly chanting Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Wonderful lecture.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Please
Krishna.
take prasadam.
Thank you all the devotees. We'll end
Online
here.
can't take prasadam.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. We'll end here.